Westmoreland Community Connections is a presentation of St. Anne Home.
Welcome to Westmoreland Community Connections, a look at issues and happenings on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. Here now is your host, Chad Amond, President and CEO of the Westmoreland County Chamber of Commerce.
Hello and welcome to Westmoreland Community Connections. I'm your host, President and CEO of the Westmoreland County Chamber of Commerce, Chad Amond. I am delighted to have on the show today Becky Solomon. She is the Westmoreland manager for Walk to End Alzheimer's. Becky, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks, Chad.
Well, give the listeners your background and how you are getting involved with the Alzheimer's.
Yeah, so I started out in the development department at the Children's Home. I've also worked at the Children's Institute previously, so I've had some nonprofit development experience. I heard about the Alzheimer's Association through an Indeed posting, and it's definitely something that's near and dear to my heart. A lot of my friends and family have had experience with Alzheimer's, and I love the aspect of the association that it's very cure-focused, and there's a lot of positivity and certainty around finding a cure, which I think is unique to the association, as a lot of nonprofits aren't as positive about a cure for some of the diseases that they work on. So that was kind of the main drawing aspect to the association for me.
Wow. We're happy to have you involved, but tell us a little bit about the upcoming Westmoreland Walk to End Alzheimer's.
Yeah, so the walk for Westmoreland is going to happen on September 21st at Twin Lakes Park, Pavilion 7. So registration is at 8:30 with an opening ceremony at 9:30, and then the walk itself begins at 10. So you walk around the lake. It's a 2-mile walk, but there is a 1-mile loop option for those who might not be able to do the full 2 miles.
Other than the obvious goal of raising funds for the association, how beneficial is it to have this even spread awareness for the impact that Alzheimer's has on our community?
Yeah, so I think that opportunities like this are really beneficial as a way to raise awareness for the disease because it affects so many. But it's kind of a taboo topic to discuss just because there is no cure. So it's kept out of a lot of conversations just because of the unknown. So I think it's really important to have events like this and really do whatever we can to spread awareness and get more teams involved to get the conversation going and really work towards finding a cure and treatments and getting diagnoses and things like that.
Probably some listeners, they hear Alzheimer's frequently, but they don't know what Alzheimer's is. I mean, can you explain what Alzheimer's is?
Yeah, so it affects everyone very differently, but I think that obviously the most obvious part of Alzheimer's is the memory loss. I think that the reason that the diagnoses aren't as prevalent as they should be is because people often write them off as just normal age-related memory loss, but there's really a pretty big difference between an Alzheimer's-related memory loss and an age-related memory loss. And that's kind of outlined through our 10 warning signs on our website. So if you log on to alz.org, we have a ton of information about the specifics. The 10 warning signs are a really good resource to look at for that. But yeah, there's so many different kinds of Alzheimer's, and it's really important to know the signs and get diagnosed.
So the listeners can go on to alz.org and go on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. And the number is 412-261-5040, and Becky's extension is 1133. 412-261-5040. What does the association do with the funds that are raised for the walk?
So for every dollar that's raised, 78 cents of that dollar goes directly to fund research and our programs and services that we offer for those that are affected by Alzheimer's or related dementias. So that's our programs and services are also all outlined on our website at alz.org.
Okay. And can you tell the listeners a little bit about the programs and services that you offer?
Yeah, so we offer care consultations. So after, I think there's a big gap between when you receive a diagnosis and what to do, the next steps after that. So we kind of try to bridge the gap with our care consultations and early stage engagement. So basically it's a support program where after you get the diagnosis, we kind of tell you what to do next or what some of the options that you have as far as home health or any kind of senior living, anything like that. Then we also have support groups throughout all of Greater PA, nationwide really. So we have on our website, we can direct you to the closest one to you, as well as any of the community resource finder. So anything like that you might need in the area. And then we also do education programs for businesses. So any business that would like to learn a little bit more about the disease or how to care for somebody with Alzheimer's.
You're listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on Hometown Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. I'm your host, Chad Amond, President and CEO of the Westmoreland County Chamber of Commerce. Our guest today is Becky Solomon. She is the Westmoreland Manager for Walk to End Alzheimer's. Becky, are there any existing research opportunities in our area?
Yeah, actually, we're really fortunate that in Pittsburgh we have the Alzheimer's Disease Research Center, where a lot of the groundbreaking research is done, which is a lot of it is funded by the association. And then another way that people can get involved with the research is through our trial match program. Again, that can be found at alz.org. And it's a program that matches any participants with clinical trials in the area. So you can learn as much as possible about the disease and work more towards a cure.
Well, a next question. How can people get involved with the Walk to End Alzheimer's or involved with the association?
Mm-hmm. So for the walk, you can register a team. It's free to register. There's no minimum team member or anything like that. So if you just log on to the alz.org/walk, put in your zip code or wherever you're located, and it'll direct you to whichever walk is in your area. And then from there, we encourage fundraising before the walk, so you can do anything like a dine and donate or a raffle or anything like that. So that's our main fundraising event is walk, but we also do a lot of other fundraisers. We have the longest day, which happens in June. So there's a bunch of other ways that you can get involved with the association, volunteer on day of walk, in our programs and services department, things like that.
How many people are involved in the walk? The volunteers and the walkers and stuff like that?
Yeah, so every walk is different, but for Westmoreland, we have about 1,000 participants. So it's a really, really huge walk. It's been going on for, I think, about 15 years. We have everyone that's involved is really, really dedicated to the cause. And obviously, I would say the majority of them have a personal connection to the disease. So it's really a great event.
What would you describe as a successful walk?
I think a successful walk would be just raising more awareness. Every year that it grows, obviously, we get closer and closer to a cure. So the more people that are talking about it and sparking this conversation around it, the closer we are to actually finding a cure. So I think awareness is the biggest piece. And obviously the fundraising aspect goes a long way towards finally getting a cure one day. So,
well, I'm sure by now most people have seen the powerful First Survivor ads on the television and heard them on this station. What would it mean to you to see the white flower added to your Promise Garden ceremony?
I think that finally being able to include the white flower would mean everything, especially to my planning committee. So like I said, a lot of people involved in the walk, specifically our walk planning committee, have personal connections to the disease. So finally being able to use that white flower in our walk would mean that all the hard work that they've done for all these years would finally pay off. And I think that that's why they're involved in the first place. So
for those people that are listening and didn't have the ability to have the white flower. What is the white flower and the first survivor?
So the white flower is our coveted Promise Garden flower that basically right now we have yellow, orange, blue, and purple. Orange means that you don't have a direct link to the disease, but you stand behind the cause. The blue flower is that you are living with Alzheimer's. The purple flower is that you've lost somebody to Alzheimer's. And then the yellow flower means that you're a caregiver for somebody with Alzheimer's. So the white flower is obviously the first survivor. So we don't currently have the white flower in our Promise Garden, but we always present it during the opening ceremony as sort of something to work towards that one day we will have the white flower involved in the walk.
You're listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on Hometown Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. I'm your host, Chad Amond, President and CEO of the Westmoreland County Chamber of Commerce. Our guest today is Becky Solomon. She is the Westmoreland manager for Walk to End Alzheimer's. Becky, the first walk began in 1989 and raised $149,000 with 9 chapters, and last year raised more than $90 million with 600 walks around the country. What do you forecast the outcome to be in another 10 years?
We forecast that the outcome will be that we have a cure by then. So, like I said...
Yeah, that's a very good thing.
Like I said, the whole reason I got involved with the association was that there really is this certainty that there will be a cure very soon. So I think what that will mean for the association is that it won't be so much geared towards fundraising for research, and it will be more geared towards the support programs and expanding the programs and services department. So that's sort of what we're looking at in 10 years.
So the cure is expected over the next decade?
They believe that, I mean, there's obviously no exact time, but they believe that it's coming soon. So,
well, we appreciate your support for the fundraising, and that's why the cure is going to be facilitated, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So we will be back after these messages, listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on Hometown Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. We'll be right back after these messages.
This is Westmoreland Community Connections on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. If you have a suggestion for a topic, or if your nonprofit organization would like to be featured on this program, call us during regular business hours at 724-216-1200.
Westmoreland Community Connections is a presentation of St. Anne Home.
Hello, and welcome back to Westmoreland Community Connections on Hometown Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. I'm your host, Chad Amond, President and CEO of the Westmoreland County Chamber of Commerce. Our guest today is Becky Solomon. She is the Westmoreland manager for Walk to End Alzheimer's. Becky, with the aging population in Westmoreland County, we have probably a third of the population of residents at 65 years or older. Mm-hmm. And so what is the biggest impact for your organization to make in Westmoreland County?
So in Pennsylvania alone, there's over 400,000 affected by Alzheimer's or related dementias. So in Westmoreland County, we provide, like I mentioned previously, we provide care consultations and over-the-phone consultations, support groups within the area. We do programs and services, lunch and learns, educational programs, webinars, things like that to sort of further educate the community, specifically in Westmoreland County, as well as obviously do the fundraising within the community to work towards that research and a cure.
You said over 400,000 residents in Pennsylvania have Alzheimer's. I mean, approximately how many in Westmoreland County? You don't probably know that specifically, but it's affecting people over 30, and I mean, it's majority of the people are the 65 or older, probably.
So it's the main demographic is 65 or older, but like you said, you can develop it if from the age of 30 on. So that's why really knowing these first 10 signs and taking those to your doctor and knowing the difference between an Alzheimer's or other dementia-related change versus a typical age-related change is really important. So even before you receive a diagnosis, they believe that your brain starts to develop it 10 years prior. So it's really important to see your doctor and make sure that you get the cognitive tests so that you get a diagnosis. And even though there is no cure at this point, there are treatments that can make living with it a lot easier and slow the degenerative process. So
how are they affected, the people that have Alzheimer's?
So as of right now, they believe that whatever affects your heart affects your brain. So any kind of healthy changes like exercise, diet, things like that are really important to helping to slow the process. Obviously, there is no certainty and it affects everyone differently. But there's definitely steps that you can take to definitely greater increase your chances of making it a lot more manageable and live with it.
It's a costly disease, not only for our country, but to those out there who are caregivers. What kind of a toll is taken on them, and how can the association help them?
So as of right now, more than 16 million Americans are providing unpaid care for people with Alzheimer's or related dementias. So it really is, finding a cure is also it will be saving the country a lot of money and resources. So these caregivers provide an estimated 18.5 billion hours of unpaid care. So that's valued at $234 billion for our country.
Wow. So
we have some online resources, support groups, and our 24/7 helpline. That's kind of our claim to fame as far as our programs and services. So you can call that helpline anytime for any kind of question as a caregiver or even somebody with Alzheimer's. If we have the clinically trained staff are available to handle any kind of crisis or any question about a local support group. And that number is 1-800-272-3900.
So that number is 1-800-272-3900. You're listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on Hometown Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. I'm your host, Chad Amond, President and CEO of the Westmoreland County Chamber of Commerce. Our guest today is Becky Solomon. She is the Westmoreland manager for Walk to End Alzheimer's. Becky, we need to get into what signs of Alzheimer's should people be looking for? So,
like I mentioned online, we do have our 10 warning signs. So I would go on to alz.org, look for the Know the 10 Signs program that we offer. That will definitely outline some specifics for the difference between the age-related changes and the Alzheimer's dementia-related changes. An example of a normal age-related change would be forgetting where you parked a car or something like that. But getting into your car and not knowing what your keys are for or how to use your car, that's a warning sign. That's not just a regular age-related change. That's a Alzheimer's or dementia-related change. So
what are other signs?
So some of the other warning signs would be mood or behavior-related changes. Sometimes people with Alzheimer's or dementia can be very irritable and sometimes violent. There's some sleep changes as well, trouble falling asleep, trouble staying asleep. Speech and speaking can be difficult sometimes, forming sentences or slowed speech, things like that.
So is this a conversation you have with your doctor?
Yes. I would say 82% of seniors say it's important to have their thinking or memory checked, while only 16% of those say that they receive a regular cognitive assessment. So we always try to encourage people to see their doctor and go and get a cognitive assessment. These are covered under your insurance once you turn 65. So we definitely recommend doing whatever you can to get that diagnosis if you think that you have these warning signs.
You're listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on Hometown Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. I'm your host, Chad Amond, President and CEO of the Westmoreland County Chamber of Commerce. Our guest today is Becky Solomon. She is the Westmoreland Manager for Walk to End Alzheimer's. Becky, we have a few last questions. Wrapping up, where can people turn for more information?
Our helpline, it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's a great resource to call for any questions that you have for Alzheimer's or dementia care. So that's 1-800-272-3900. Or you can also visit our website, alz.org/PA, for our specific programs and information on PA, the Greater PA chapter specifically.
The Alzheimer's Association serves, obviously, Westmoreland County, but what market do you serve for all of the community?
So we have 6 offices in 59 counties in the state of Pennsylvania. So our reach is pretty significant. So anything that any rural areas too, we're also expanding. So we have a pretty far outreach in Greater PA.
Make sure that the listeners know where and when is the Westmoreland Walk to End Alzheimer's, and we're going to finish it up.
So the Westmoreland Walk is on September 21st at Twin Lakes Park in Pavilion 7. And registration, like I said, is at 8:30. So you can go online to alz.org/walk. The Westmoreland website specifically is act.alz.org/Westmoreland 2019. And that's where you can register a team for, like I said, it's free to register. No minimum amount of participants. You just sign your team up and you can do day of registration, anything like that. So
it's Saturday, September 21st at Twin Lakes Park, Pavilion 7. Mm-hmm. And the doors open at 8:30 and the walk begins at 10 o'clock. Mm-hmm. And so go on to alz.org/walk and go on to Facebook or Instagram or Twitter. And the number for the helpline is 1-800-272-3900. That's 1-800-272-3900. Last but not least, if we were sitting here a year from now or a decade from now and celebrating what great year it has been, what did you achieve?
Well, that sort of remains to be seen, but like I said, hopefully within the decade there will be a cure. So hopefully that will totally transform the face of the Alzheimer's Association, and we'll no longer be focused on the research piece, and we'll be doing direct programs and services as our main claim to fame for the association.
And so what is Alzheimer's Association most proud of?
Right now, we're most proud of the research, the funding that we provide for research, just because that without that, we wouldn't be this close to finding a cure. So again, hopefully down the line, it will be more programs and services. But for right now, we're most proud of the research piece.
Thank you very much, Becky, for being on the show. Any last things that you want to tell the listeners? Definitely
just if you have any questions about the walk, that's my particular expertise. Definitely give me a call at 412-261-5040. My extension is 1133. Or you can send me an email at rrsolomon@alz.org.
Thank you very much for being on the show, and thank you for impacting the Alzheimer's Association. And you've been listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on Hometown Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB. Join us next week, same time, same place, for another edition of Westmoreland Community Connections. Thanks for listening, everyone.
This has been Westmoreland Community Connections, a look at issues and happenings in and around Westmoreland County. Join us again next week on Classic Hits 107.1 WHJB.
Westmoreland Community Connections is a presentation of St. Anne Home.